Mr. President, first let me commend my colleagues, Senator Franken and Senator Brown, for their leadership and their very wise comments on this issue, which is the most difficult one that young Americans face, and that is paying for college and student loans. And as my colleagues have indicated, this is just really the tip of the iceberg, because these debts that they've accumulated prevent them from buying homes, from starting families, and ultimately it affects our economy in a tremendously disruptive way. And so all of this is coming into very sharp focus as we begin the graduation season. We have high school seniors who are choosing a college to attend. We have college graduates who are leaving and facing a very difficult job market. Those who are going to college are looking at huge potential debts. Those that are leaving college already have, in most cases, those debts and are now thinking about how they can deal with them as they go forward. Outstanding student loan debt today is at an estimated $1.2 trillion, and it is growing. According to the Institute for College Access and Success, between 2008 and 2012, average student loan debt increased by an average of 6% per year, much, much faster than the rate of inflation. So we have an issue that is just not only critical today, it's getting worse each and every day. 70% of the class of 2012 graduated with student loans, and average student debt was $29,400. That's a lot of money. And with that debt and with a job that's paying modest wages, or in many cases sort of not being able to find such a job, that's very difficult to address those debts. I just met with the presidents of all my colleges and universities in Rhode Island, and we talked about the urgency of this issue. Rhode Island ranked 5th in the nation for average debt, with graduates owing an average of more than $31,000 when they graduate from college. We're 5th in the nation. We're also, I must point out, regretfully, 1st in the nation on unemployment. So you have the classic situation of Rhode Island graduates leaving with $31,000 of debt and struggling in the toughest job market in the United States to find work. And that is a very difficult combination to bear. And that's what so many of our young people, not just in Rhode Island, but in Ohio, in Minnesota, in Massachusetts, across this country, are facing. This debt is a huge drag on our economy. It's a threat to our future. We have to take action. We just can't sit back and watch this get worse each day as it is. First, we must commit to lowering costs for low and middle income families. The Pell Grant is the foundation for making college affordable. It is the work of my distinguished predecessor, Senator Claiborne Pell, who understood that if you could make college affordable for talented Americans, they could remake this country and the world. And for decades, we did that. We provided the kind of resources in terms of grants that would allow talented but not wealthy students to go to school, to leave school without huge debts, and to begin immediately to apply their talents to the issues that confront this country and this world. In fact, I would argue that his foresight back in the 60s set the stage for all these great sort of revolutions. Why did we have a telecommunications revolution? Because we had not only the educated scientists and engineers to develop transistors, develop all these new technologies, we had the most educated population in the world to use them. That wasn't an accident. That was building on the GI Bill in the 1940s, with the Pell Grant in the 1960s, to make college affordable and accessible to the widest section of Americans. That has been really the engine that has driven our growth and our economic progress over many decades. And that engine is sputtering right now because of the debt that is being put on these students, because the cost of college is going up. We certainly have to reject the proposals in the House by some of our Republican colleagues that will roll back investment in the Pell Grant. We have to do more to make the Pell Grant accessible to more citizens, more Americans. Second, we have to tackle this student loan debt crisis. The federal government should not be generating revenue from student loan interest payments. Instead, we should be offering lower rates. That is why I introduced the Responsible Student Loan Solutions Act to set interest rates to cover our costs and nothing more, and allow for refinancing of loans that are at high fixed rates. I was pleased to work with Senator Warren from Massachusetts, who's an extraordinary leader on this issue, to develop a new student loan refinancing bill that would enable student loan borrowers to refinance at the rate that was enacted under the Bipartisan Student Loan Certainty Act last year. And we also have to hold loan servicers accountable for treating borrowers fairly. Students must get accurate and clear information about their repayment option. And that is why Senator Durbin's Borrower's Bill of Rights is so critically important. I'm proud that he's joined us on the floor, and I'm very proud to be a co-sponsor of his legislation. Third, states and colleges and universities have to step up. They have to do more to provide the resources, to provide the efficiencies, so that we can make college more affordable for all of our citizens. I've introduced the Partnership for Affordability and Student Success Act to reinvigorate the federal-state partnership for higher education with an emphasis on need-based grant aid. One of the problems we have, frankly, is that in the 1960s, if you looked at the Pell Grant, roughly it would cover about 80% of tuition. Now it covers about 20% of tuition for those who can get the grant. If we could go back to, those times where you could basically get, if you were a low-income deserving student, a grant, we wouldn't have such a crisis in student debt. And so we have to, I think, make grant aid more accessible. And that requires a state, federal, university, college partnership. A recent report presented at the American Education Research Association found that grant aid increased the likelihood of graduation for low-income students, while unsubsidized student loans resulted in a decrease in graduation rates. So if we're worried about graduating young people from college, one thing we can do is take the worry of debt off their shoulders, take the uncertainty of trying to cobble together financing for education by giving them the grants that used to be something we thought were, part and parcel of the American dream. We also know that one of the main reasons tuition has skyrocketed is that state appropriations for higher education have declined. According to the State Higher Education Finance Report, state spending per full-time equivalent student reached its lowest point in 25 years in 2011. And the states do have to put more into their state university and college system. And I say that knowing full well the challenges the states faces, some of which are a result of policies and guidance that we have given them. But if the states aren't willing to put more resources in, it ultimately is shifted onto the shoulders of students, and ultimately there's only so much weight they can bear. States have to reinvest in higher education, and we can help give them incentives to do that rather than disincentives. And I hope my legislation will do that. Finally, colleges and universities must take greater responsibility for affordability and student loan debt. This is not something that's beyond their prerogatives. They're not helpless in this. They have to not only advise students on the best course of action. In fact, in my view, colleges, public, private, for-profit, nonprofit, should be fiduciaries, really. They should operate in the best interest of the student, not the best interest of the bottom line, not to make up for lost state contributions, not to sign up for esoteric deals with financial companies because they get a huge payment back in return. Just as in the classroom, they should be trying to give these students the best education. In the financial aid office, they should be giving them the best deal possible on paying for their college. So to ensure that, to basically make sure that all of these institutions have some, as they say, skin in the game, I introduced the Protect Student Borrowers Act with Senators Durbin and Warren. I must say, this is also a result of some hard lessons we learned in the financial crisis. If institutions don't have an interest in the loans they're making, in fact, they're encouraging people to take loans they can't afford, disaster is just days, months, weeks away. It's coming. We want them to be more responsible. And so we would ask them, as the percentage of their students who default rises, that these institutions start sharing some of the risk, that they start being conscious of the arrangements they're giving, the rates they're charging, the courses that they're offering. You know, they have a vested interest in their students succeeding, not getting as much money as possible. Now, I know there are other colleagues on the floor. I have more to say about this, but we have a great work to be done here. This is about a fair shot for all of our students and all of our families. And working with Senator Warren and Senator Durbin and my other colleagues, we're going to try to make a difference for students across this land.